Hi, so this is a Heljan double O gauge class 17, often known as Clayton after the manufacturer. I've only just got this. It is second hand and it was advertised as being boxed, which it was, with no accessory pack, which it didn't have, and missing one buffer, which indeed it was. Since unboxing, which I don't do, so I'm not going to show you that, I've taken it to bits to have a look at it. I've put a couple of crew in the cab here and discovered that in order to get the main cover off, the cab comes off separately. You have to remove two of the buffers at one end. Now, I've also discovered now that these buffers tend to be self-removing. The buffer that was missing was the one in this position here, so I 3D printed a buffer, and I think you can see, if that's in focus, that it's a pretty good likeness. However, it's more complicated than that because the original buffers, like these ones here, are slightly sprung. I don't know if it really serves any purpose, but the real issue now I have is that other than this buffer here, the other two buffers, the original ones, are now missing the retaining caps. And it's a bit difficult to show you exactly where it is, but just in there, there is a cap to stop the buffer coming off. Which one is it? Sorry, it's here, this one. The cap is just a push fit and it's quite slack, and so what has happened at this end, in fact there the buffer's just fallen out again. Since running this round the layout, the caps for the buffers on this side have both dropped off, and so the buffers are free just to fall out. Now in the case of this one, I think the spring is possibly still in there, not sure. With this one, the spring is around the shaft of the buffer itself. The spring's tiny. I mean, we're talking in the realms of what you might find inside a watch. Completely and utterly impractical. So I think what's going to happen here is, as the cover does not need the buffers to be retained, because the cover is more than adequately held in by a clip here and here and here and here, the buffers are not serving any useful purpose in holding the cover on as far as I can see. So I'm afraid the buffers are just going to be removed, shortened, replaced, and probably put in either with tacky wax or probably super glue, and that way they'll stay orientated correctly. To be fair, the buffers do have a square piece, so they can go in and not rotate once they're in. But of course you can put them in the wrong way around and have one, you know, north-south rather than east-west. So, weird. It's a pity because it's a really nice model. It runs well. It has the motor centrally mounted, drive shafts out to the twin axle bogies, driven on all wheels, pickups on all wheels, and it's a nice heavy locomotive, so it runs really well. I think the buffer issue is resolvable, and I'm about to do that in a moment, which I'll probably do off camera because I'm sure you can't need to see me snipping a piece of plastic and sticking this in the super glue. The other thing to note is that the instructions that came with it, and I've checked on the Gagemaster website and it's the same instructions, so I have the full instructions. They make no mention of the head code. Now, this unit came to me with no head codes, but it does have a head code light, white front and back, which are directionally operated, and also twin red lights here, again directionally operated. See, there's a buffer just gone west again, or well, it's actually south as I'm sitting. So yes, they're going to do nothing but annoy me, and I'm not permitting, at my age now, I don't like to be annoyed, so I'm just going to sort this out shortly. Anyway, back to the head codes. It came with a sheet of paper with head codes, so I cut out what I believe to be the Scottish ones and fitted them to either end. But the instructions tell you absolutely nothing about the head codes, the fact that you're going to get them, the fact they're not fitted, and more critically, how to fit them. So I did what any person would probably do, and I googled, and what I was told on a number of websites is you put a sharp knife in here and you remove the glazing from the head code unit, and you're likely to damage the glazing and or the yellow panel. So I thought, well, I'm not really up for that. So when I had the cover off, I found that the unit that holds the LED on the inside comes off. I also found once you've taken it off, you cannot get it back on again. It doesn't clip in. I think it must have been lightly glued. So it is now lightly black tacked, but it did allow me to fit the head codes without damaging the glazing or the yellow ends, which would have been a pity. The further issue, which you've probably noticed from the introductory video, is that the light in the head code is central, which is fine. But you could probably illuminate the far side of the moon with it. So I am going to attempt to reduce the brightness of that, and that could be done probably two ways. I could apply some yellow paint to the LED, or perhaps more intelligently introduce a further series resistor. So I'm going to try the latter first. So I'm going to go off camera now and sort out these buffers. So I decided it would be a better idea to 3D print another 3 buffers in case for some reason I want to revert to the original buffers and perhaps buy another one from, I don't know, Gauge Master, whoever might provide it. I can't see me doing it, but if I make the provision and the precaution, then hopefully I'll probably never need it. So I'm going to put the buffers that I make in a method that can be removed, probably tacky wax or something that will allow me to pull them back out. Right, so we are now bufferless. Something else to also note is that when the Locomotive came to me, it had some detail here, like a very nice little coupling. In fact, there it is there. I don't know, it's probably difficult to see. And these, I take there must be vacuum brake pipes or something. Now they're all very nice, however, one end didn't have the NEM coupling in it and one did. I think somebody's maybe been running it on a tail tracer and only turning in one direction, because when you fit the couplings, as I now have at both ends, they foul the decorative pieces, and they foul it badly to the extent that the bogie derails. So I'm afraid they had to come off. So again, I mean, I'll just set those aside, but I can't see me using them. In fact, I'll put them in this. I have done this bag with the buffer bits that I've got. I'm short of 2 retainers. Not going to lose any sleep over it. There we are, and those can go in there as well. So maybe better naming this Heljan parts I'll probably never use, but there we go. So, as I said earlier, this is relatively straightforward to get the cover off. Just ease it out, and I suitably modified a couple of crew that I had and tacky waxed them in position. So they will probably fall off during the process of removing the cover. It's just simply a matter of using a little more of this stuff, and their butts will be attached to their seats. So, in fact, there's one. Why don't we just take them out rather than let them fall out? Then we know where they are. Those guys are not going anywhere, legless. So, if we just open this up, like that, and do the same at the other side. Then with the buffers not being there, the cover comes off. Now, might be easier for you if I do this the other way around. Certainly not easier for me though. This is now somehow got itself attached. Right, there we go. So the head code lighting is here and here, and is now, as I said, I'll just remove this foam. The foam of course now has attached itself to my black tank. So yeah, it's in there. And hold on folks, we now have a buffer. So there we have 3D printed buffer, which if I find my extraction tool, this is a particularly good blade for removing the buffer from, there we go. So we need to repeat that process a couple of times more. I could have printed them in one go, but there doesn't seem any point, as I'm here anyway. So we have a red and black from the circuit board to the LED. So what I'm going to attempt to do now is to put a resistor in series with that and see if we can get the light down a bit. Just for reference, if we have a look at this just now, right, we can see there's the white light and what it looks like, and that's just with a PP3 battery. Right, I'm going to just see what a 1K resistor does to this. I think that's still too bright. So let's try 4K7 instead. I'm just going to attend to the 3D printer. I shall return shortly. Right, so I've replaced the 1K resistor with a 4K7, and I think that's probably better. We need to bear in mind because it'll be brighter than that when it's on the track, as the PP3's 9 volts. At best, I've had that one for a long time. So I think I'll probably just go with that. In fact, what I might do is just sit it on the track and have a look at it. I shall report back shortly. Okay, I've track tested that just with the cover sitting there, and I would say that's fine. So that seems to have fallen off there, so we can get this stuff back in here. I'm not quite sure, not really sure what it's doing. Soundproofing, I don't know. Right, we've got 3 buffers done. In the process of doing all that, I have misplaced the one that I 3D printed earlier, but this is easy just to print another one. So don't think there's any reason to not put the cover back on, so I'll probably just go ahead and do that. The Locomotive seems to have other ideas, but it sounded good. Yep, that's it closed. So, just get the merry men back in place. Put a little bit of silvering on the controls there. It was a bit of a pity that we went to the detail everywhere else and didn't think to do that. It's hardly a massive improvement, I have to say. There we go. Right, so need to shorten these buffers. Oh, I see where my buffer is that I printed myself. It's in the Locomotive. Right. Okay. So I think we will just pop this in here and yeah, okay, I think that method's going to work. Boy, that one's stuck well. Right, I just need to put a wee bit of a file to the end of the ones that I've printed and then apply some black marker just to take the roughness away from where it's been filed, as it tends to grey slightly even though it is black through and through. So, later.